Welcome back to the Lyons Share. I'm Mark Elliott here with Mitch Lyons of Mitch Lyons Wealth. You can always go to the website to learn more, as I've said throughout the show. You can always find out more about Mitch and the team. There's some great information on the website. There's also Mitch's book there, The Retirement of Steel, Discover How to Protect Your Wealth. You can pick up the book right there on the website. There's also a film that Mitch is a part of. He's a producer of, The Retirement Deception, Exposing the Truth About Retirement Success. So you've got a book and you've got a movie right there on the website, MitchLyonsWealth.com. And again, it's not the Detroit Lions, it's Mitch Lyons, so it's Lyons, MitchLyonsWealth.com to check out the book and to check out the film. And the film, they have to, just send something to get the code to use it, to watch it, right?
Yep, you can just request the code right on the website. It'll be sent to you via email, and you can watch it on your laptop, your TV, or your phone, whatever you want. That's about an hour and 10-minute film, but it delves into different income strategies and how you can make sure that you have the income you need in retirement and do it most efficiently, tie up less of your dollars to do that, and just do it the right way and make sure you're protected and have lifetime income, no matter how long you live.
We're going to go all over the place here today for a mailbag. We're going to start, Mitch, with Paul in Novi. Now, I say this all the time. We enjoy the mailbag. Here's the challenge, though. Mitch doesn't know your whole story. Doesn't know how old, how much money you need. Doesn't know the whole story, so he's got to kind of ballpark. And Mitch's pretty good at that. He's an athlete, so he's a ballparker. All right, here you go. Paul in Novi. Mitch, I've been a disciplined saver my whole life, and we have a healthy nest egg. But now that I'm actually retired, I'm finding it psychologically impossible to write checks from my savings. I feel like every dollar I spend is a dollar closer to being broke. How do I switch my brain from saving mode to spending mode without the anxiety?
Wow, we get this one a lot. And I just the other day I was talking to a gentleman. He said, hey, my mom was a great saver. She grew up during tough times and it was save, save, save. And he goes, I've been raised the same way. And this guy has done a great job. He's got more than enough, but he still can't break that mode of exactly like Paul's saying, I feel like I'm going to be broke if I spend too much, right? And that is where having a plan in place where we can map it out for you to show, hey, listen, you can spend, maybe you're spending, your needs are $4,000 a month. You could spend $7,000 or $8,000 a month and still be fine. And I always say, it's not my opinion. We can just show you the math behind it and how that we can set you up so that happens and without any anxiety. So that is people spend 30 or 40 years saving for retirement. It's worth a 10-minute call to just touch base with us, ask the questions, or set up a time where we can get in a little more depth. We don't charge anything for that conversation. And, maybe stop kicking the can down the road and just find out for sure where you stand. And that's the biggest thing. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, but if you're aiming at the wrong target entirely, you're never going to hit it. So that is what I would suggest, Paul, is give us a call. Be happy to chat with you and dial that in for you.
All right, Mitch, next question comes from Shirley in Okemos. Mitch, my daughter and her husband are looking to buy their first home. But with interest rates where they are, the monthly payments are a little bit of a stretch for them. I have the liquidity to pay cash for the house and let them pay me back at a lower rate. Is becoming the family bank a good legacy planning move or a recipe for disaster?
That is a excellent question and a loaded one at that. And this is where you start mixing money and family, right? And I can see entirely why you want to do that, Shirley. And I just would caution everybody that, hey, when you start mixing family and money, that can get a little toxic at times. What if something happens and they, can't keep paying you back? Or, and Shirley mentioned she's fine and it's not a stretch for her to loan that money. But, if the money's gone, and you can't get it back if all of a sudden they can't, keep up payments and whatnot. So number one, I don't want you to put your own retirement at risk. You can't get a loan for retirement. The kids can get a loan for a house. Maybe it's a little higher rate than they want, but you can't get a loan for retirement. So just want to be real careful on that and have it mapped out and have those hard conversations ahead of time so that it doesn't make it really uncomfortable down the road. But yeah, that's I can totally see it, and it's actually come up in conversations with other folks, but you want to be careful on that.
Next question comes from Steve in East Grand Rapids, Mitch. Mitch, I keep hearing about required minimum distributions, RMDs. I turned 73 this year, and frankly, we don't need the income from my IRA to cover our living expenses. Do I absolutely have to take this money out? And if I do, is there a way to take it without getting killed on taxes?
Well, there are some things that you can. Well, let's start at the first part. Yes, the government's going to mandate that you take RMDs, right? You've gotten this tax break as you accumulated. They let you put it away. You took a deduction on your taxes each year over the last, say 30 or 40 years. And as I always talk about, Uncle Sam's got his name on the title too. And now it's time he wants to get his shares back. And in doing so, he's forcing you to take those distributions. Now, if you don't need them and you're charitably inclined, yes, you can do some qualified charitable distributions and send it directly to your favorite charity or church if that's so. And that church or charity is going to get $100 Uncle Sam won't get anything off that. So if you're charitably inclined, that's a great tool. And there's a lot of nuances to that, where some other things we can combine to maybe leverage that and make it even more attractive for you. That's definitely worth a conversation. The other thing is I realize he's turning 73. There are some things you certainly can do ahead of time, right? I'm guessing a few years back you might have recognized that, hey, I'm not really going to need these. There are some things you can do for those folks that are approaching that age, doing some Roth conversions ahead of time, letting some of that air out of the tax balloon before you even have to take RMDs. Got a lot of folks calling in saying, hey, I want to get as much converted even before I get to RMD age so that I don't have to worry about it and be subject to the rules of Uncle Sam and or increased tax rates, which may very well be a reality for us down the road. And if it's something you don't need and you're ultimately going to dump it in the laps of your kids, it definitely is meaningful to and important to consider these things ahead of time and mitigate some of that tax problem in advance.
Once you get to RMD age, which is 73 for those like me born in 1959 or earlier, and then it's going to be 75 for those born in 1960 or later, that changes in 2033. But is there any point to doing it after you've hit the RMD age where you've got to start pulling money out, or it's just then you just deal with it? I suppose you could still do some.
No, you can still do conversions. Even you've got to still take your distribution. And in fact, if you are doing a conversion on top of that, your conversion, if you're paying it internally, the tax you pay on your conversion will count as your RMD. So again, if somebody is interested in that, we can certainly if they can just text Blueprint to our number or call in and request that. But that is something that they can look at. You definitely can do the conversions. And again, you have to take the RMD though. You can't avoid that because now you're going to pay a 50% penalty. So you don't want to, that's not the way to do it. That's not how we want to avoid RMDs, but definitely some strategies we can talk about and perhaps point you in the right direction and save you, significant amounts of assets down the road between income you're having to being forced to take out and what you might leave to heirs. We can really mitigate that, and our software will show you that. Again, not my opinion. It's a math problem. We can walk through that with you on a Zoom and show you exactly what it looks like for your situation.
Final question, Mitch. This comes from Larry in Leadington. We have lived in the same neighborhood for 30 years and have a great circle of friends, but our grandkids just moved 2 states away. My wife wants to sell the house immediately and move to be near them, but I'm worried we're going to be lonely without our social network. Have you seen other retirees regret moving just to be near the grandkids?
That I'm actually going through that a little bit myself right now. In terms of, we have 2 grandsons that are real close to us, and I've got another son that lives down in Florida, and they are expecting our first granddaughter in November. And guess what? We're looking for a place down in Florida now. So because Mama Bear doesn't want to be too far away from the first granddaughter. So yeah, geez, that's tough. I don't think you'd ever regret being closer to your grandkids, but totally understand the concern about losing that social network, because that's a big part of life, right? And so maybe it's a combo. Maybe it's, hey, maybe you downsize and get yourself a smaller place where you in Ludington and have a place to come back to be with those friends. Maybe feel it out, kind of do halvesies for a little bit. And or just don't sell the house right away. Maybe get a feel for, hey, can you make some connections in that new state? But that is definitely real. That's the emotional part about retirement, and that's something you've got to wade through.